Long before dinosaurs became the subject of scientific study and popular fascination, they lived silently in the imaginations and stories of early human cultures. These ancient imaginings, even without concrete knowledge of dinosaurs as we understand them today, reveal how prehistoric creatures kindled human creativity and curiosity. This section explores how early human culture and art accidentally or indirectly connected to the mysterious giant reptiles that ruled the Earth millions of years prior to humanity's existence. Ancient humans, scattered across the globe, likely stumbled upon large and strange fossilized bones while digging or hunting, long before science had names or categories for such finds. These enigmatic bones provoked awe, fear, and wonder, stirring mythologies and legends that connected the creatures to gods, spirits, and the very fabric of nature. The ancient interpretations often reflected human attempts to explain the unknown, crafting narratives around these massive remnants from a world far removed from their own. One of the earliest and most intriguing examples of the intersection between discovered fossils and human imagination can be traced back to ancient China. Here, large, mysterious bones were often thought to be dragon bones. The dragon, a powerful and revered figure in Chinese mythology, is sometimes considered to have been inspired by discoveries of dinosaur and other prehistoric bones. These dragon bones were even ground into medicines in traditional Chinese practices. Despite lacking a modern scientific framework, this blending of fossil discovery and cultural significance demonstrates the deep-rooted human fascination with massive reptilian creatures. Similarly, throughout other parts of the world, myths about giant serpents, monsters, and strange beasts possibly stem from humans' attempts to rationalize strange fossils. For example, some Native American tribes have oral traditions describing horned or giant beasts roaming the land, tales which might have originated when encountering fossils from ceratopsians or other large dinosaurs. Although these stories are not direct knowledge of dinosaurs, they suggest a subconscious transmission of the prehistoric reality into cultural memory. Moving to Europe, there are records of early scholars and thinkers encountering fossils, though they lacked the scientific tools to interpret them accurately. In the classical era, some ancient Greeks and Romans speculated that certain enormous bones might belong to giants or mythical creatures. Pliny the Elder, a Roman author of the 1st century AD, wrote of terrible bones and immense limbs that people associated with mythic giants. Again, these were early hints of human thoughts influenced by fossil remains, hinting at something existed before humans, but framing it through mythological prisms. Art from prehistoric times, while not representing dinosaurs explicitly, also opens a window into the way ancient humans perceived giant beasts. Cave paintings and carvings, such as those found in Europe's Paleolithic caves, frequently depict now extinct megafauna, like mammoths and giant deer. Although these creatures lived during a later period than the dinosaurs, the human impulse to depict large and powerful wildlife is evident. If ancient peoples from much earlier epochs had witnessed living dinosaurs or their fossils, it's plausible they might have included representations of such creatures in their visual storytelling. What we do see is that the human tendency to mythologize and artistically express fascination with massive, terrifying, or mysterious creatures is ancient and universal. These impulses laid the groundwork for later cultures' more explicit interpretations, once paleontology emerged as a scientific discipline. It is important to clarify that no evidence conclusively proves that ancient art depicts dinosaurs in the strict modern sense, but the connections between fossil discoveries and cultural myths create a fascinating tapestry of indirect dinosaur influence in human history. In some cases, notably in the myths of the indigenous peoples of North America, There is discussion among researchers about whether collective memory could have preserved echoes of prehistoric creatures. Some tribes tell of thunderbirds, gigantic birds capable of creating storms, which might symbolically relate conceptually to large flying creatures from the distant past. These stories, passed down through generations, illustrate how dinosaurs or their distant relatives continue to inspire awe and symbolism, even when filtered through layers of oral tradition and myth. It's also worth mentioning how early human civilizations in Mesopotamia and the Middle East had elaborate mythologies featuring serpentine or reptilian creatures. The Epic of Gilgamesh, for instance, depicts dragons and monstrous animals that are symbolic of chaos and power. While these are literary creations, the imagery could subconsciously connect to humans' observations of fossil bones or skeletal remains that defied easy explanation. Even in medieval Europe, before the rise of modern science, strange bones occasionally surfaced and fueled legends of dragons, giants, and sea monsters. When fossils were encountered, they were often woven into the cultural milieu, reinforcing existing beliefs or inspiring new tales. This intersection of ancient natural history and folklore is a powerful testament to the human mind's ability to interpret the unknown through narrative. In conclusion, ancient human culture and art interacted with the deep history of the Earth in subtle and evocative ways. While the dinosaurs themselves vanished millions of years before humans emerged, their fossilized remains captured human imagination and inspired myths enduring for millennia. These stories, art, and cultural beliefs speak to an inherent fascination with the mysterious past, bridging the gap between prehistoric life and human storytelling traditions. As we move forward in this exploration, we will see how this early fascination laid the foundation for the birth of dinosaur science in the Victorian era, a time when myths began to be replaced by more accurate understandings. Yet some misconceptions persisted, shaping how dinosaurs, feathered or scaly, entered modern human consciousness. As the dawn of the Victorian era introduced sweeping changes in science and society, paleontology began to emerge from obscurity into a formal discipline. This period, roughly spanning the 19th century, became foundational in shaping how the world understood dinosaurs. Yet it was also the era in which many enduring myths and stereotypes about dinosaurs took root, some of which persist even today. This section delves into the emergence of Victorian paleontology, the personalities involved, the scientific atmosphere, and how early interpretations of fossils led to popular but sometimes inaccurate images of these ancient creatures. The early 19th century marked an explosion of fossil discoveries across Europe and North America, spurred by industrialization and mining operations exposing new strata. Fossils captivate the imagination, and Victorian naturalists and geologists raced to collect, classify, and interpret these remnants of a prehistoric past. The term dinosaur itself was coined in 1842 by Sir Richard Owen, a British anatomist and paleontologist. Owen cleverly named these creatures Dinosauria, meaning terrible lizards, to emphasize their massive size and reptilian characteristics. Yet this label, descriptive as it may be, also laid the groundwork for an image of dinosaurs as essentially giant, slow-moving lizards, a stereotype that would endure far beyond Owen's time. Victorian science was still in its infancy regarding evolutionary theory. Although Charles Darwin's On the Origin of Species was published in 1859, the concept of evolution was controversial and not immediately accepted by many. Consequently, early paleontology operated within a framework that often viewed dinosaurs as static, monstrous relics of a bygone era, unrelated directly to modern animals. This view favored dinosaurs as colossal, lumbering beasts, dominating primeval landscapes but devoid of the dynamism we associate with them now. One of the leading figures influencing the public's perception was Benjamin Waterhouse Hawkins, an artist and sculptor who collaborated with Richard Owen and others to create some of the first life-sized dinosaur reconstructions. These grand sculptures, displayed at London's Crystal Palace Park in 1854, captured Victorian imagination and are credited with sparking widespread dinosaur fascination. However, they were based on limited fossil evidence and comparative anatomy knowledge of the day. So the models depicted dinosaurs as sluggish, heavily built reptiles with sprawling limbs, akin to giant lizards or crocodiles. While groundbreaking and influential, these visual interpretations inadvertently cemented misconceptions about dinosaur posture and locomotion. The rivalry between two American paleontologists, Othniel Charles Marsh and Edward Drinker Cope, known as the Bone Wars, further shaped dinosaur science and stereotypes. Their intense competition in the late 19th century led to the discovery and naming of numerous new dinosaur species. However, their rush to outdo one another resulted in rushed and sometimes inaccurate reconstructions. Many early dinosaur fossils were pieced together incorrectly, as scientists attempted to fit bones into preconceived notions of reptiles rather than letting the evidence guide them. Popular culture during the Victorian period absorbed and perpetuated these stereotypes. Dinosaurs were often depicted as monsters or obstacles in adventure stories and early speculative fiction, embodying the primal and unknown aspects of nature. The slow, lumbering reptilian trope became a common motif, reinforcing ideas of dinosaurs as cold-blooded beasts weighed down by their own bulk. This impression was also influenced by the cultural context of the era, which viewed reptiles as cold and unfeeling. Interestingly, even some Victorian scientists struggled with the idea that dinosaurs could be related to birds or exhibit warm-blooded qualities. The prevailing paradigm favored reptiles as slow and cold-blooded, and it wasn't until much later that the notion of active, possibly feathered dinosaurs gained traction. The reluctance to challenge these views prolongated the dominance of the scaly giant stereotype. Throughout the 19th century, advances in geology and better fossil discoveries gradually shifted scientific perspectives, but it was a slow process. The limited technology for fossil preparation and the fragmentary nature of many dinosaur specimens led to cautious, sometimes conservative reconstructions. These images often depicted creatures in a sprawling posture, dragging tails, and cumbersome gait. Such reconstructions were influential in shaping art, literature, and education about dinosaurs for well over a century. Moreover, the Victorian era's focus on grandeur and spectacle dovetailed with dinosaur imagery. The fascination with titanic and awe-inspiring creatures made dinosaurs symbols of nature's power and mystery. Large, terrifying, and scaly, they became icons of a prehistoric world so alien and vast that they could inspire both dread and wonder. However, despite many inaccuracies, the Victorian paleontologists laid essential foundations. Their dedication to fossil collection, classification, and public display helped transform dinosaurs from obscure curiosities into subjects of serious scientific study and popular interest. The Crystal Palace dinosaurs, for instance, remain historically significant as some of the earliest attempts at bringing prehistoric life to the public's eye in 3 dimensions. In summary, the Victorian period was a crucible for dinosaur stereotypes. It was an era marked by enormous progress in paleontology, but overshadowed by limited knowledge and cultural biases. The terrible lizard image, the portrayal of dinosaurs as slow, cold-blooded giants, and the fixation on scaly reptilian skin all found their genesis in this time. As we continue our journey through the evolving understanding of dinosaurs, we will next explore how the rise of Hollywood in the 20th century further cemented and amplified many of these dinosaurs' myths and misconceptions. Film and media would take the Victorian scientific foundations and, blending them with imagination and spectacle, shape public consciousness in powerful and lasting ways. As we transition from the Victorian era's foundational scientific discoveries and stereotypes, we enter a period where dinosaurs leapt from museum exhibits and scientific literature directly into the vivid imaginations of the public through the powerful medium of film. Hollywood, with its capacity for storytelling, spectacle, and mass appeal, has played a pivotal role in shaping and sometimes distorting popular perceptions of dinosaurs. This section examines how movies and cinematic techniques have influenced dinosaur myths, blending science with fantasy to create images so enduring that they continue to inform our collective understanding of these ancient creatures. The influence of Hollywood on dinosaur imagery began in the early 20th century, almost as soon as the medium of film itself found its footing. One of the earliest landmark films involving dinosaurs was the 1914 silent movie Gertie the Dinosaur, created by Winsor McCay. Though a short animation, this film enchanted audiences by bringing a friendly, playful dinosaur to life in a way never seen before. While it was not scientifically rigorous, Gertie captured the imagination and marked the beginning of dinosaurs as characters in popular storytelling, rather than merely museum attractions. The 1933 film King Kong pushed this fascination further. Featuring a colossal tyrannosaur-like beast battling the giant ape on Skull Island, King Kong provided some of the first instances where dinosaurs were portrayed as terrifying monsters, themes that would echo in later portrayals. While scientifically inaccurate in many respects, the thrill and drama of these prehistoric creatures fighting tapped into deep-seated fears and wonder about the prehistoric world, embedding the idea of dinosaurs as fearsome, roaring beasts into popular consciousness. However, it was the groundbreaking 1930s stop-motion animations by Willis O'Brien and later his protege Ray Harryhausen that cemented dinosaur imagery in Hollywood's visual language. O'Brien's work on The Lost World, 1925, and King Kong, combined with Harryhausen's later films such as 1 Million Years BC, 1966, gave dinosaurs lifelike movements, sounds, and personalities, albeit filtered heavily through the imaginative lens of what science knew or presumed at the time. Perhaps the most influential film in popularizing and shaping dinosaur myths on a grand scale is Steven Spielberg's 1993 blockbuster Jurassic Park. Implementing cutting-edge computer-generated imagery, CGI, alongside animatronics, the film presented dinosaurs with unprecedented realism and personality. The movie captured the imagination of millions worldwide and sparked a global resurgence in interest. Yet even this landmark film propagated many myths. Oversized carnivorous dinosaurs as relentless predators, roaring titans, invariably scaly skin, and tail-dragging postures. While some depictions were scientifically grounded or prescient, others were artistic liberties intended to heighten drama and spectacle. From the silent era's charming animations to the visceral thrills of modern blockbusters, Hollywood has continuously played a dual role. As an educator, introducing prehistoric wonders to a mass audience, and as an entertainer, prioritizing drama over exactitude. These portrayals often reinforce the dinosaur as monster trope that originated during Victorian paleontology, but added sound, motion, and narrative, creating images of dinosaurs that are as much myth as fact. Moreover, cinematic depictions frequently omitted emerging scientific insights about dinosaurs' possible warm-bloodedness, bird-like behaviors, and most controversially, feathers. For decades, the scaly, toothy, and often monstrous portrayals remained dominant, quieting more nuanced scientific understandings. This reticence was partly due to visual tradition and audience expectations. Fearsome, reptilian creatures were simply more enthralling for thrilling narratives than fluffy or feathered animals. Importantly, Hollywood also influenced popular imagination through repetition and cultural reinforcement. Films inspired merchandise, toys, and children's books, embedding these prehistoric stereotypes into broader culture. Television series like Dinosaurs, 1991 to 1994, introduced anthropomorphized dinosaur characters, blending humor and social commentary, but still often rooted in traditional imagery. The pervasive influence of these media meant that many generations grew up with a similar dinosaur archetype, heavily shaped by Hollywood's creativity and constraints. In recent decades, however, the relationship between Hollywood and paleontology began to shift. As scientific discoveries increasingly highlighted the feathered nature of many theropod dinosaurs, filmmakers faced the challenge of updating dinosaur portrayals while maintaining audience interest. Films like The Land Before Time, 1988, and Walking with Dinosaurs, 1999, began incorporating more accurate postures and behaviors, though feathers were often still excluded or minimized due to aesthetic or narrative choices. Some recent productions have taken greater strides toward scientific accuracy. For example, the Jurassic World series introduced more agile, bird-like movements in their dinosaurs, though it largely maintained the scaly look for recognizability. Even so, debate and controversy often arise when filmmakers try to depict feathered dinosaurs, because popular audiences sometimes resist what they perceive as a departure from the classic dinosaur image, rooted deeply in decades of cinematic tradition. This ongoing tension between science and storytelling highlights the influence Hollywood holds in shaping ideas about dinosaurs. On one hand, films are a powerful gateway for public engagement with prehistoric life. On the other, artistic license and narrative demands can propagate myths and resist scientific updates. In summary, Hollywood's cinematic portrayals have been instrumental in popularizing dinosaurs, turning them into cultural icons of mystery, power, and adventure. Yet, alongside this cultural elevation, many myths and stereotypes about dinosaur appearances, behavior, and ecology were born and sustained. As we look forward, the evolving collaboration between filmmakers and scientists promises to rewrite the dinosaur story on screen, embracing a richer and more accurate vision while preserving the wonder that has captivated audiences for over a century. Next, we will explore how these cinematic and cultural influences solidified the classic dinosaur look, evolving from the scaly giants of early paleontology and film into the thunder lizard icons indelibly etched into our imaginations. As we continue our exploration into the evolving image of dinosaurs, this section delves into what has become known as the classic dinosaur look, an iconic visual shorthand that has dominated public consciousness for more than a century. The image of towering, scaly giants, often lumbering across desolate, prehistoric landscapes, encompasses much more than paleontological knowledge. It is a synthesis of scientific interpretation, cultural influence, and artistic imagination. We will trace how this signature dinosaur aesthetic developed, how it reflected the knowledge and assumptions of its time, and why it became so deeply ingrained in our collective imagination under evocative nicknames like the thunder lizard. The roots of the classic dinosaur look can be traced back to the mid-Victorian era, when burgeoning paleontology was still piecing together fragmentary evidence with limited tools, limited fossils, and a compelling desire to imagine these beasts in life. Early paleontologists largely viewed dinosaurs as sprawling, reptilian creatures that resembled oversized modern-day lizards or crocodilians. They were thought to be ectothermic, cold-blooded animals moving slowly and dragging their tails behind them, lumbering through swampy environments. This interpretation was heavily influenced by a worldview that classified dinosaurs squarely as reptiles, cold-blooded and ponderous, rather than dynamic and possibly warm-blooded creatures. The term thunder lizard, coined in 1877 by the eminent American paleontologist Othniel Charles Marsh, poetically captured this idea. It emphasized enormous size and the earth-shaking sound of their footsteps, dinosaurs as massive, awe-inspiring titans. The nickname resonated beyond scientific circles and was embraced by the public, further cementing a sense of dinosaurs as overwhelmingly powerful but slow-moving reptiles. This vision meshed perfectly with the era's fascination with gigantism and the astonishing prehistoric world. Popular reconstructions and sculptures of the late 19th and early 20th centuries reinforced this view. Restorations often depicted dinosaurs with sprawling limbs that projected sideways from their bodies, similar to lizards today, resulting in low-slung, sprawling postures. Tails were generally assumed to drag on the ground, acting as heavy, balancing appendages. This sprawling posture made these creatures appear somewhat cumbersome, as if draped heavily across the landscape, a notion supported by the interpretation of dinosaur trackways and partial skeletons of the time. Another critical and defining feature of the classic look was the perception of dinosaur skin as being universally scaly and rough, similar in texture to crocodiles or modern reptiles. This was a reasonable assumption before the discovery of actual skin impressions and the later revelation of feathers. Skin fossils from some dinosaur species confirmed scales, and interpretations naturally generalized these findings. As a result, scaly skin became synonymous with dinosaurs in scientific illustrations, museum exhibits, toys, and popular art. Additionally, this aesthetic passed into literature and culture, reinforcing a fearsome image of dinosaurs as brutal, cold-blooded predators and enormous herbivores engaging in epic battles. The powerful imagery of towering carnivores like Tyrannosaurus rex and the huge, long-necked sauropods lumbering through primeval forests embodied this conception. Dinosaurs were often imagined as inhabiting dense, humid swamp environments, echoing the cultural idea of a primordial, wild past waiting to be rediscovered. It's important to note that this classic look was not just a mistake or myth, but a scientific hypothesis based on the best available evidence of its time. The incomplete fossil record, primitive excavation techniques, and evolutionary theory's nascent stage limited the ability of paleontologists to fully reconstruct these animals. As fossil discoveries became more numerous and technology advanced, scientists began to challenge and refine many of these ideas. By the mid-20th century, new discoveries and modern methods brought evidence contradicting the sprawling, tail-dragging stance. Fossilized footprints showed more upright, bird-like postures. Studies of dinosaur biomechanics suggested more active, agile creatures capable of dynamic movement. Nevertheless, popular and artistic representations clung on to the classic look, largely because it had become iconic, marketable, and deeply familiar. Moreover, Hollywood and media continued to propagate this image, as thrill and drama favored oversized, scaly monsters over rebelling against entrenched expectations. The trope of dinosaurs as scaly, lumbering giants persisted across generations, making it difficult to introduce more nuanced portrayals later on. In essence, the journey that took dinosaurs from obscure fossil fragments to the thunder lizard giants, as popularly imagined, reveals much about the intersection of science, culture, and imagination. The classic dinosaur look encapsulates a time when dinosaurs were cast as ancient, somewhat slow-moving monsters, symbolic of Earth's distant, mysterious past. Yet, it also paved the way for scientific inquiry, debate, and eventually the revelations that would challenge and expand this image to incorporate feathers, bird-like behavior, and vibrant activity. As our understanding of dinosaur biology evolved, so too did the visual and conceptual portrayal of these magnificent creatures. The dismantling of the purely scaly, sluggish dinosaur myth would emerge only later, fueled by new findings and a willingness to question long-held assumptions. Up next, we embark on that transformative chapter, the moment when feathers first entered the conversation, dramatically reshaping the image of dinosaurs forever. Our journey through dinosaur history now brings us to a pivotal moment in paleontology: the dismantling of the long-standing myth that dinosaurs were exclusively scaly, cold-blooded reptiles, and the introduction of feathers into the conversation about dinosaur appearance and behavior. This transformative chapter reshaped not only scientific understanding, but also popular conceptions of these prehistoric creatures, revealing a far more complex and fascinating picture than previously imagined. For much of the 19th and much of the 20th centuries, dinosaurs were universally pictured as reptilian, scaly beasts. This view was heavily influenced by their classification as reptiles, combined with the fossil evidence available at the time. Fossilized skin impressions showed scales on some species, and no clear evidence of feathers had yet been recognized. Dinosaur reconstructions, artwork, and museum displays depicted them with tough, lizard-like skins, and many believed they were sluggish and cold-blooded. However, the seeds for challenging this established view were planted as early as the late 19th century. In the 1860s, fossils of Archaeopteryx, a creature displaying both bird and reptile features, sparked debate about the evolutionary relationship between birds and dinosaurs. Although this finding implied a connection, it did not immediately lead to widespread acceptance that many non-avian dinosaurs could possess feathers or feather-like structures. The notion of feathered dinosaurs truly entered the scientific discourse in the late 20th century, sparked by groundbreaking discoveries in the rich fossil beds of Liaoning province, China. Starting in the mid-1990s, remarkably well-preserved fossils from this region extended our understanding dramatically. These specimens not only retained bones, but also detailed impressions of soft tissues, including feathers and feather-like structures. This evidence proved that many theropod dinosaurs, those closely related to modern birds, had a variety of feathers covering their bodies. The Liaoning discoveries revolutionized paleontology, providing tangible proof that feathers were not the sole domain of modern birds, but a feature inherited from their dinosaur ancestors. Species like Sinosauropteryx displayed simple filamentous feathers, while others such as Archaeopteryx and Microraptor had more complex feather arrangements, hinting at functions beyond flight, including insulation and display. But even before the Liaoning discoveries, paleontologists had begun re-examining dinosaur integument, meaning the outer covering of the body. Some 20th century findings hinted at structures that did not conform to traditional reptilian scales. The more recent feather finds were thus not an abrupt revolution, but rather the culmination of a shift in thinking, propelled by increasing evidence. Another essential factor in breaking down the scaly dinosaur myth was the growing appreciation of birds as living dinosaurs. Advances in comparative anatomy and molecular biology revealed that birds evolved directly from theropod dinosaurs, making modern birds the last surviving dinosaurs on Earth. This profound insight linked feathers, warmth, and activity levels, further undermining the cold, sluggish reptile stereotype. The timeline of scientific acceptance was gradual. Initially, skepticism dominated, as the idea of colorful, feathered dinosaurs appeared jarring compared to the familiar image of monstrous, scaled reptiles. Scientists questioned whether the filamentous structures might be degraded collagen fibers or plant matter. However, with accumulating fossil evidence and a growing understanding of dinosaur biology, feathers became an accepted and essential part of many dinosaur species' anatomy. Public and educational acceptance lagged behind scientific findings, in part because of entrenched cultural images reinforced by decades of textbooks, films, and museum exhibits. Depictions of dinosaurs covered in feathers or downy fuzz challenged long-held perceptions, and sometimes met with resistance from audiences who found it hard to reconcile these images with their childhood views of dinosaurs. In response, artists and scientists collaborated on new reconstructions that authentically integrated feathers based on fossil evidence, showing dinosaurs in vibrant, dynamic, and often colorful guises. These reconstructions also explored the multifaceted roles feathers could play, from thermoregulation, camouflage, and mating displays to the earliest stages of flight evolution. In conclusion, the entrance of feathers into the dinosaur conversation signaled a paradigm shift, a move from viewing dinosaurs as static, scaly relics to recognizing them as complex, diverse, and highly adaptive animals with features far resembling their avian descendants. This transition not only overturned popular myths, but illuminated the intricate evolutionary web connecting ancient reptiles and modern birds. As we continue, the next section will provide a foundational understanding of dinosaur classification, exploring the division between Saurischians and Ornithischians, which will serve as an essential framework for understanding which groups of dinosaurs are most closely connected to feathers and birds, and how these groups diversified through time. To fully appreciate the story of dinosaurs and their feathers, it is essential to start with a basic understanding of dinosaur classification. Dinosaurs are broadly divided into two main groups, or clades, the Saurischians and the Ornithischians. This classification, first proposed in the late 19th century by British paleontologist Harry Seeley, is based primarily on the structure of their pelvic bones, the hip bones, and represents one of the fundamental frameworks that guide paleontologists in organizing dinosaur diversity. In this section, we will explore what defines these two groups, their distinct evolutionary paths, and how this classification connects to the presence of feathers and bird origins. The term Saurischia means lizard-hipped, reflecting a pelvic arrangement somewhat reminiscent of modern lizards. In Saurischians, the pubis bone points down and forward, away from the ischium bone. This group includes two major lineages, the theropods and the sauropodomorphs. Theropods are mostly bipedal carnivores, such as the iconic Tyrannosaurus rex and Velociraptor, famous for their sharp teeth and predatory habits. Sauropodomorphs, on the other hand, comprise the enormous long-necked herbivorous sauropods like Brachiosaurus and Diplodocus. The Ornithischia, literally bird-hipped dinosaurs, have a different hip structure where the pubis bone is rotated backward parallel to the ischium, a configuration somewhat akin to that seen in modern birds. While this might suggest a close relationship to birds at first glance, revolutionary research has shown that birds actually evolved from theropod Saurischians, not Ornithischians. This intriguing twist in evolutionary history underlines that similar anatomical features can evolve independently, a phenomenon known as convergent evolution. Ornithischians formed a vast and varied group of primarily herbivorous dinosaurs, including those with plates and spikes like Stegosaurus and Ankylosaurus, the horned ceratopsians like Triceratops, and duck-billed hadrosaurs. Many of these herbivores had complex dental batteries and specialized teeth suitable for grinding plant material, showcasing their distinct ecological niches. The distinction in pelvic structure between these two clades may sound technical, but it has profound implications for how these animals moved, fed, and adapted over millions of years. More importantly, understanding these groups helps contextualize the evolution of feathers and bird-like characteristics. Among the most crucial discoveries in modern paleontology is that feathers are not an exclusive feature of birds, but originated within the theropod lineage of Saurischian dinosaurs. Early theropods appear to have sported simple filamentous structures, precursors to feathers, long before the emergence of true birds. This evolutionary connection means that birds are essentially highly specialized, feathered theropod dinosaurs that survived the mass extinction event 66 million years ago. In contrast, the Ornithischian dinosaurs, although distinct in many ways, also exhibited intriguing integumentary features. Some Ornithischians developed structures such as quill-like bristles or filamentous coverings, suggesting that feather-like structures appeared more widely among dinosaurs than previously thought. These features may have served functions like thermoregulation, display, or camouflage. However, fossil evidence for feathers or filament-like integuments in Ornithischians is less abundant and somewhat more ambiguous compared to theropods. The classification into Saurischians and Ornithischians also guides paleontologists in reconstructing the behavior, physiology, and ecology of these animals. For example, the closer relationship of birds to theropod dinosaurs encourages detailed investigations into bird-like characteristics such as feathers, nesting behaviors, brooding, and metabolic rates within this group. Understanding the Saurischian and Ornithischian split thus provides a critical framework for appreciating the diversity and evolutionary pathways of dinosaurs, for identifying which species might have had feathers and why. It also helps clarify that dinosaurs were not a monolithic group of scaly monsters, but a diverse assemblage with varying adaptations and appearances. As we move forward, this classification will be our compass for exploring specific fossil evidence, discoveries of feathered dinosaurs, and understanding the intricate link between birds and their ancient ancestors. By grasping these foundational divisions, listeners will be better equipped to follow the unfolding narrative of dinosaurs' evolutionary history, especially as we uncover the evidence preserved in fossils that paints a richer and more colorful portrait of these fascinating creatures. The wonders of paleontology owe their existence largely to fossils, nature's extraordinary time capsules preserving the story of life on Earth across millions of years. To understand how we have uncovered the truth about dinosaur feathers and their ancient world, it is essential to appreciate how fossils preserve evidence, not just of bones, but also, in rare and remarkable cases, of soft tissues such as skin, feathers, and even internal organs. This section delves deeply into the processes and conditions that allow fossilization to capture these diverse clues from the distant past, guiding us into a clearer, more vivid picture of dinosaurs. At the heart of paleontology lies the fossilization of bones, the most common form of preservation. When dinosaurs or other animals died, their soft tissues usually decomposed quickly, but long-lasting mineralization of hard bones often occurred under favorable conditions. Typically, a carcass needed to be rapidly buried by sediment, such as sand, mud, or volcanic ash, protecting it from scavengers, decay, and physical disruption. Over time, minerals from groundwater seeped into the porous bone, replacing organic material cell by cell in a process called permineralization. The result is a rock-like fossil, retaining the shape and fine details of the original bone, allowing scientists to study anatomy millions of years after the creature's death. However, bones alone tell only part of the story. For many decades, fossils revealed limited or no information about the outer covering of dinosaurs. The delicate structures of skin, feathers, muscles, and organs composed mostly of soft tissues, rarely survived the ravages of time. Decomposition, scavenging, and the physical and chemical processes in sediment destroy these easily, making soft tissue preservation extraordinarily rare. The exceptional preservation of soft tissues requires extraordinary fossilization circumstances, often termed Lagerstätten, sites of remarkable fossil deposits where fine details of organisms are retained. These conditions usually involve rapid burial coupled with anoxic, oxygen-poor environments that drastically slow decomposition and prevent bacterial action. Fine-grained sediments, such as clay or volcanic ash, help preserve microscopic details. Fossil sites with these conditions have yielded fossils with imprints or even remaining traces of skin, scales, and feathers. One of the earliest fossil clues to dinosaur skin impression came from hadrosaur fossils in North America, dating back to the late 19th and early 20th centuries, which revealed patterns of scales through natural mold impressions left in surrounding rock. These helped to consolidate the scaly skin image dominant in classical dinosaur reconstructions. But the real breakthrough for feathers came from more refined preservation methods and significant fossils. Since the 1990s, Liaoning province in northeastern China has produced some of the most spectacular fossils ever discovered, with soft tissues beautifully preserved in exquisite detail. These include not only feathers, but also skin, muscle impressions, and in some instances, internal organs and stomach contents. The delicate filamentous and branched structures interpreted as feathers are visible because of a unique combination of rapid burial by volcanic ash and anoxic lake conditions, preventing decay and allowing for exquisite fossil fidelity. Advanced analytical techniques have further expanded our ability to detect soft tissue evidence in fossils beyond visible impressions. For instance, scanning electron microscopy, SEM, allows paleontologists to examine microscopic details of fossil surfaces, revealing melanosomes, specialized pigment-bearing organelles, in fossil feathers that hint at color and patterning. Chemical analyses such as mass spectrometry and synchrotron radiation-based imaging help detect traces of organic molecules like keratin, the protein making up feathers, or remnants of hemoglobin and collagen. Even fossilized dinosaurs initially appearing only as bones can, upon re-examination with modern technology, reveal minute soft tissue traces. In 2005, a groundbreaking discovery by Mary Schweitzer and colleagues found soft tissue structures inside dinosaur bones, including flexible blood vessel-like material and preserved collagen, challenging long-held assumptions about fossilization and opening new avenues for biological studies. Preservation of feathers in fossils is particularly challenging because feathers are fine structures composed of carbon-rich keratin, easily degraded after death. Their preservation requires either rapid burial or mineralization that captures the delicate outline or microscopic structures. In some fossils, feathers appear carbonized as thin films. In others, they preserve intricate three-dimensional details, allowing reconstructions of different feather types. While feathers preserved outside the body intrigue scientists, fossilized footprints and skin impressions give complementary information about dinosaur movement, foot morphology, and skin texture. For example, tracks found in various parts of the world provide indirect but valuable evidence about gait, speed, and behavior, helping to fill gaps where body fossils are missing. Understanding the diverse ways fossilization can capture bones, soft tissues, and other traces illuminates why the discovery of feathered dinosaurs is remarkable. It is only through the convergence of favorable natural circumstances, advanced technology, and meticulous scientific scrutiny that we can peer deeper into the ancient past and reconstruct not just a skeleton, but a living, breathing creature with feathers, colors, and behaviors. This appreciation also emphasizes the incomplete and biased nature of the fossil record, as soft tissues fossilize far less frequently than bones. Consequently, many dinosaurs that likely had feathers do not have preserved evidence of them. As we proceed, we will explore the first unmistakable evidence of feathers in the iconic Archaeopteryx fossil, bridging the gap between feathered dinosaurs and modern birds. The discovery of Archaeopteryx in the mid-19th century stands as a monumental milestone in our understanding of dinosaurs, feathers, and the evolutionary lineage that connects ancient reptiles to modern birds. Often referred to as the first bird, Archaeopteryx has held a unique place in both scientific history and public imagination, embodying the evidence of the feathered link that bridges the gap between dinosaurs and birds. This section explores the significance of Archaeopteryx, the details of its discovery, and how it fundamentally reshaped the narrative about feathers and dinosaur evolution. Archaeopteryx, meaning ancient wing, was first discovered in 1861 in the Solnhofen limestone quarries of Bavaria, Germany. These exceptionally fine-grained sedimentary deposits preserved organisms with remarkable detail, including soft tissues such as feathers. The fossils of Archaeopteryx showcased a fascinating mosaic of features. It bore long, asymmetrical flight feathers strikingly similar to those of modern birds, but possessed a reptilian skeleton with sharp teeth, clawed fingers on its wings, and a long, bony tail. This tantalizing blend of avian and reptilian characteristics placed Archaeopteryx at the heart of debates about evolution, anatomy, and the origin of birds. At the time of its discovery, Archaeopteryx emerged just 2 years after Charles Darwin's groundbreaking publication on the origin of species. The fossil provided concrete, tangible evidence supporting evolutionary theory and the notion of transitional forms, organisms that exhibit traits of both ancestral and descendant groups. Archaeopteryx was hailed as the missing link, the primordial ancestor that demonstrated birds evolved from reptilian lineages, specifically theropod dinosaurs. The feathers of Archaeopteryx were integral to its importance. Unlike earlier ideas that feathers might be exclusive to birds, Archaeopteryx's feather impressions confirmed that feathers could exist on creatures with predominantly reptilian features. The feathers themselves were complex structures, resembling modern flight feathers with a central shaft, symmetrical barbs, and interlocking hooks that gave them strength and aerodynamic function. This demonstrated that feathers had evolved well before the ability to fly was fully developed, likely serving other roles initially, such as insulation or display. Over the years, further specimens of Archaeopteryx have been discovered, each adding layers to our understanding. Some specimens revealed the presence of wing claws, while others showed more detailed feather arrangements along the tail and body. The variations among specimens have fueled debates about locomotion, whether Archaeopteryx was fully capable of powered flight or more of a glider, and how it fits in the dinosaur-bird evolutionary tree. The significance of Archaeopteryx extends beyond its status as an ancient bird. It validates that feathers are an ancestral trait inherited from dinosaur ancestors. Scientific comparisons between Archaeopteryx and certain small feathered theropod dinosaurs, such as Velociraptor and Deinonychus, highlight striking skeletal similarities, reinforcing the evolutionary continuity. These comparisons were essential building blocks for the later recognition that many non-avian theropods were feathered as well. Despite its important role, Archaeopteryx's position in the dinosaur bird lineage occasionally invites reassessment with new fossil discoveries and advanced analytical techniques. Some studies suggest Archaeopteryx may have been more primitive than previously thought, while other feathered dinosaurs from China and elsewhere might represent more direct ancestors of modern birds. Nevertheless, Archaeopteryx remains emblematic of the era when the concept of feathered dinosaurs gained a formative foothold. In the grand tapestry of paleontology, Archaeopteryx stands as a beacon illuminating the complexity of evolution, illustrating how traits like feathers can arise and diversify over time. The fineness and preservation of its fossilized feathers captured imaginations, sparking scientific inquiries that continue to this day. The story of Archaeopteryx bridges ancient worlds, connecting the Mesozoic era's sprawling dinosaur landscapes with the birds serenely flying in our skies. As we proceed, we will explore the groundbreaking fossil findings in Liaoning Province, China, whose discoveries expanded our knowledge of feathered dinosaurs beyond Archaeopteryx and revealed an astonishing diversity of feather types and dinosaur-bird relationships, further reshaping our understanding of prehistoric life and evolution. In the story of paleontology, few chapters have been as transformative or electrifying as the discovery of feathered dinosaur fossils in Liaoning Province, China. These extraordinary finds, unearthed starting in the mid-1990s, have profoundly reshaped our understanding of dinosaurs and their relationship to birds. They not only provided compelling, well-preserved evidence that many dinosaurs sported feathers, but also forced the scientific community to reconsider long-held assumptions about dinosaur appearance, behavior, and evolution. This section will take you through the fascinating breakthroughs of the Liaoning fossil discoveries and their monumental impact on the world of paleontology. Liaoning, located in northeastern China, is home to one of the planet's most exceptional fossil Lagerstätten, sites characterized by unparalleled preservation of fine anatomical details, including soft tissues. The fossils from this region date to the early Cretaceous period, roughly 125 million years ago, a time when dinosaurs were diverse and early birds were beginning to diversify as well. The first major discovery that captured global attention was that of Sinosauropteryx in 1996. Prior to this find, feathers were known only from birds, primarily in the fossil Archaeopteryx. However, Sinosauropteryx was a small theropod dinosaur, clearly non-avian, but it bore unmistakable filaments covering its body. Simple, hollow, hair-like structures that are now interpreted as primitive feathers. This challenged the traditional belief that feathers were exclusive to birds and sparked a paradigm shift. Feathers must have evolved earlier in the dinosaur lineage than previously believed. Following this breakthrough, numerous other feathered dinosaur fossils emerged from Liaoning's fine volcanic ash beds. Specimens such as Archaeopteryx and Protarchaeopteryx showed more complex feather types, including symmetrical feathers somewhat similar to those of modern birds, though these dinosaurs were incapable of powered flight. Perhaps even more astonishing was the discovery of Microraptor, a small, four-winged dinosaur with long flight feathers on both its arms and legs, suggesting a unique gliding or flying ability and complex aerial locomotion. What set the Liaoning fossils apart from other finds around the world was the extraordinary preservation of soft tissues. Fine feathers, skin, and even coloration patterns could often be discerned thanks to the precise geological conditions that rapidly buried these creatures in anoxic lakes, drastically slowing decomposition. This exquisite preservation allowed paleontologists not only to confirm the presence of feathers, but to study their structure, arrangement, and inferred functions. The variety of feather types found across a wide range of theropod species in Liaoning shattered the notion that feathers evolved solely for flight. Instead, paleontologists theorize that feathers initially served various functions such as insulation, display for mating or intimidation, camouflage, and sensory roles. This multifunctional origin of feathers deepened our understanding of evolution as a process of gradual modification and repurposing. Beyond theropods, recent discoveries suggest that feather-like structures might have also been present in some Ornithischian dinosaurs, herbivorous groups previously not associated with feathers. While more tentative, these reports hint that the evolutionary history of feathers may be even more widespread and ancient than once thought, possibly existing near the base of the Dinosauria tree. The Liaoning discoveries also bridged gaps in the dinosaur bird evolutionary narrative. By uncovering a stunning diversity of feathered dinosaurs, some possessing both advanced bird-like features and primitive traits, these fossils paint a complex picture of gradual evolution rather than abrupt transformation. They have become vital witnesses to the incremental steps that led to the emergence of modern birds. The scientific community greeted these findings with excitement, but also scrutiny. Initially, some skeptics questioned whether the filaments were indeed feathers or simply degraded collagen fibers or other soft tissues. However, continued discoveries of more detailed feather structures and advances in imaging techniques have cemented the interpretation of these filaments and plumes as true feathers. The impact of Liaoning's fossil trove extends beyond academia. These discoveries captured public imagination worldwide, revitalizing interest in dinosaurs, fueling books, exhibitions, documentaries, and inspiring new artistic reconstructions. The image of the fuzzy, or feathered dinosaur has moved from fringe hypothesis to central scientific consensus, forever changing the way we visualize these ancient animals. Importantly, these findings underscore the dynamic nature of scientific inquiry. As new evidence emerges, established beliefs evolve. Liaoning's fossils exemplify how the past can reveal unexpected surprises, challenging preconceptions, and enriching our understanding of the complexity and diversity of life on Earth. As we proceed, our focus will widen to survey feathered dinosaurs across multiple clades, illustrating that feathers are not confined to just a few notable species, but are a widespread feature among diverse groups. This broad survey will deepen our appreciation for the evolutionary richness and variety of feathers in the dinosaur world, far beyond the image of birds alone. As we move beyond the narrow view that feathers are an exclusive characteristic of birds, a broader panorama unfolds, revealing a diverse and fascinating array of feathered dinosaurs spanning multiple clades across the dinosaur family tree. This section surveys the remarkable breadth of feathered dinosaurs discovered to date, illustrating that feathers were not limited to avian species, but existed much wider among non-avian dinosaurs, offering a textured and colorful glimpse into the prehistoric world. The most extensive and well-documented group of feathered dinosaurs belongs to the theropods, a clade of primarily carnivorous dinosaurs within the larger Saurischian division. Early theropods like Liaoning and Archaeopteryx sported simple filamentous feathers, thin hair-like structures that likely functioned as insulation to maintain body heat. These minimal feather structures mark the evolutionary onset of feathers and show that feather development predated flight by millions of years. Advancing further along the theropod lineage, the Maniraptorans, a diverse group that includes familiar names such as Velociraptor, Deinonychus, and the famous Microraptor, exhibited increasingly complex and varied feather arrangements. Microraptor, for instance, possessed asymmetrical flight feathers on both its forelimbs and hindlimbs, enabling a form of gliding flight. It is a stunning example of feather evolution serving aerodynamic functions before the advent of powered flight. Similarly, Anchiornis, another spectacularly preserved specimen, displayed elaborate plumage covering almost the entire body, including wing-like feathers on all four limbs. Theropods also demonstrated a wide range of feather morphologies, from simple filaments to pennaceous feathers with flattened veins and interlocking barbules resembling those of modern birds. This variety suggests that feathers fulfilled multiple roles, not just flight, but insulation, display for mating and species recognition, camouflage, and even sensory functions. The remarkable Hello Feathers exhibit shown in many museums allows visitors to appreciate the vivid diversity of feather structures discovered in fossil specimens. But feather-like structures have not been confined solely to theropods. Exciting new discoveries indicate certain Ornithischian dinosaurs also bore filamentous integuments. For example, Tianyulong, a small bipedal herbivore from Liaoning, China, exhibited simple filamentous structures along its back and tail. Psittacosaurus, a ceratopsian, bore bristle-like quills on its tail, interpreted as early integumentary features related to feathers. These fossils suggest that the origin of proto-feather structures might trace back to a common ancestor of all dinosaurs, or at least were convergently evolved in different lineages. Among large ornithischians, some hadrosaur fossils have revealed skin impressions with tiny, scale-like features interspersed with possible primitive filamentous structures, though evidence is less abundant and interpretations remain cautious. Such findings hint at a mosaic of integument styles that may have included scales, protofeathers, or a combination of both, reflecting functional adaptations to environment and behavior. The discovery of feathered dinosaurs across different clades challenges the simplistic dichotomy of feathered birds versus scaly dinosaurs. Instead, it reveals a nuanced evolutionary history where feathers originated earlier than once thought, in small, likely warm-blooded theropods and spread or evolved independently across the dinosaur tree. Feathers were likely multi-purpose features long before the evolution of flight, highlighting the complexity of dinosaur ecology and biology. Moreover, this wide distribution of feathers and filamentous structures has important implications for interpreting dinosaur behavior and ecology. Feathers could indicate thermoregulatory adaptations, signaling that many dinosaurs maintained a relatively high metabolic rate. They might have played roles in protecting animals from environmental extremes or in communication through visual displays. The presence of feathers in herbivorous dinosaurs also opens new avenues of thought about dinosaur diversity in appearance and lifestyle. As skeletal and soft tissue fossil evidence accumulates and analytical techniques improve, the map of feathered dinosaurs continues to expand and diversify. Each new fossil discovery contributes to a richer understanding of how feathers evolved, spread, and functioned throughout the Mesozoic era. In essence, feathers were not the exclusive hallmark of birds, but a widespread and versatile biological innovation among dinosaurs themselves. This paradigm shift from the notion of featherless, scaly reptiles to a dynamic world of feathered dinosaurs challenges long-standing beliefs and reinvigorates our interpretation of dinosaur biology. Next, we will delve deeper into the different types of feathers discovered on these ancient creatures, exploring the spectrum from simple filaments to complex flight feathers, and how their morphology informs us about function, evolution, and behavior. As we explore the fascinating world of feathered dinosaurs, it becomes essential to understand the diversity and complexity of feathers themselves. Far from being a uniform covering, feathers exhibit a variety of forms and structures, each with distinct evolutionary origins and functions. This section delves into the different types of feathers identified in dinosaur fossils, ranging from simple filaments to the sophisticated flight feathers we associate with modern birds, revealing the evolutionary narrative of feathers across millions of years. At the most fundamental level, the earliest feathers discovered on non-avian dinosaurs are referred to as filamentous or proto-feathers. These were slender, hair-like structures, thin and unbranched, similar in appearance to downy fur or simple filaments. Evidence of such feathers has been found especially on basal theropods, like Sinosauropteryx and Bepiosaurus. Protofeathers likely served primary functions related to insulation, as these creatures were probably warm-blooded or at least required body heat retention. Their presence suggests that feathers evolved before flight, and that warmth regulation was a crucial driver of their initial development. Advancing beyond simple filaments, many feathered dinosaurs exhibited more complex filamentous feathers with branching structures. These primitive feathers, called dendritic filaments, had multiple branches extending from a central shaft, resembling primitive down feathers in modern birds. Such structures provided enhanced insulation and possibly played roles in display. For instance, certain ornithischian dinosaurs like Tianyulong exhibited filamentous integuments, possibly representing these types of feathers, pointing to a wider evolutionary spread beyond theropods. From these humble origins emerged the pennaceous feathers, quill-like structures with a central shaft, rachis, and barbs extending to form a flat vein. Pennaceous feathers are notable for their interlocking barbules, which help maintain feather integrity and shape. These feathers are crucial for aerodynamic performance in modern birds. Remarkably, several non-avian theropods, such as Caudipteryx and Protarchaeopteryx, exhibit evidence of pennaceous feathers, often localized on forelimbs and tails. These structures hint at the early evolution of flight-related traits, even in species that were likely flightless. Within the pennaceous category, asymmetrical feathers are of special importance. Their asymmetry, where one side of the vein is narrower than the other, provides aerodynamic advantages necessary for powered flight. Fossils like Archaeopteryx and Microraptor show asymmetrical flight feathers on their wings and tails, confirming their capability for gliding or limited flapping flight. Microraptor, with asymmetrical feathers on all four limbs, presents one of the most elaborate examples, suggesting a unique mode of arboreal locomotion. Another feather type worth noting is the down feather, which is soft, fluffy, and lacks a rigid central shaft. Down feathers optimize insulation by trapping air close to the skin. In dinosaurs, such feathers appear alongside pennaceous feathers, contributing to a multi-layered plumage for temperature regulation and protection. Beyond the basic types, some dinosaurs displayed highly specialized feathers or feather-like structures adapted for display or communication. These include elongated plumes, ribbon-like tail feathers, and other ornamental features. For example, certain oviraptorosaurs possessed elaborate tail fan feathers, likely used in courtship displays, possibly akin to the peacock's extravagant tail. Such decorative feathers underscore the role feathers played beyond flight and warmth, extending into social signaling. The diversity of feather types is not just a story of structure, but of function, evolution, and adaptation. Feathers evolved through incremental stages, from simple filaments aiding insulation to complex aerodynamic surfaces, enabling flight and intricate ornaments for mating displays. This diversity reflects the dynamic evolutionary landscape of the Mesozoic era, where feathers contributed to survival and reproductive success in myriad ways. Furthermore, the discovery of various feather types in fossilized dinosaurs has led scientists to reconsider the evolution of feathers as a gradual process with multiple drivers, rather than a sudden innovation exclusively linked to flight. Feathers likely originated for insulation or display, pre-adaptation that later facilitated the evolution of flight in birds. This nuanced understanding challenges previous simplistic views and enriches our perception of dinosaur biology. With modern technology, from microscopy to chemical analyses, paleontologists continue to uncover subtle details within fossilized feathers, such as pigmentation cells, melanosomes, that reveal insights into color and pattern. These findings contribute to reconstructing visual appearances and behaviors, making the study of feather types a doorway into the vibrant lives of these ancient creatures. As we continue, we will explore the myriad functions that feathers served within these prehistoric ecosystems, from thermal regulation and visual display to their crucial roles in locomotion, shedding light on the complexity and sophistication behind what once seemed like simple body coverings. Feathers are among the most striking and versatile evolutionary innovations found in nature, and their functions extend far beyond the well-known role in flight. In the context of dinosaurs, understanding the multifunctional roles of feathers opens a window into the lives, behaviors, and survival strategies of these ancient creatures. This section explores the various purposes feathers served, from insulation and thermoregulation to display, camouflage, sensory input, and even aiding locomotion, illuminating how feathers contributed significantly to the success and diversity of dinosaurs. One of the earliest hypothesized functions of feathers in non-avian dinosaurs was insulation. Small to medium-sized theropods, likely warm-blooded animals with higher metabolic rates, would have benefited greatly from a covering of filamentous or downy feathers to conserve body heat. This insulation would have helped maintain stable internal temperatures, enabling active lifestyles and stable metabolic processes even in cooler climates or during colder periods of the day. Modern birds retain this function, and the presence of downed feathers in many fossil specimens suggests that insulation was among feathers' original roles before the evolution of flight. Beyond insulation, feathers also played crucial roles in visual display and communication, which are integral to many animals' social behaviors. Ornamental feathers, such as elongated tail plumes, brightly colored crests, or intricate patterns, may have been used for attracting mates, intimidating rivals, or signaling dominance. Oviraptorosaurs, for example, exhibited elaborate tail fan feathers that likely functioned in courtship rituals, akin to how peacocks use their extravagant tails. Such display feathers could also facilitate species recognition or territorial signaling, fostering complex social interactions within dinosaur populations. Camouflage and protection represent additional feather functions. Feathers with muted colors or disruptive patterns could help dinosaurs blend into their environments, avoiding predators or sneaking up on prey. This would be especially useful for smaller, more vulnerable species. Some feather structures likely evolved to shield skin from sun exposure or physical damage, serving as a protective layer. Camouflage, when combined with the ability to move swiftly or hide, would increase an animal's survival odds in the diverse Mesozoic ecosystems. Feathers likely also provided sensory input. In modern birds, specialized feathers called filoplumes are linked with nerve endings that detect changes in feather position and airflow, helping birds maintain balance and navigate flight. Similar structures may have existed in feathered dinosaurs, enhancing their ability to perceive environmental stimuli or adjust posture, thus contributing to agility and environmental awareness. Perhaps the most celebrated feather function is their role in flight and locomotion. While feathers likely originated for other purposes, they were later co-opted to generate lift and enable various forms of aerial movement. Among theropods like Archaeopteryx and Microraptor, feathers on limbs and tails facilitated gliding or primitive forms of flight. Over millions of years, feathers evolved aerodynamic sophistication, becoming lighter, more flexible, and arranged in complex wings to support powered flight in early birds. Beyond flight, feathers on legs and tails might have aided running, balance, and maneuvering, thus contributing to efficient locomotion on land and in the trees. Interestingly, feathers may have played roles in thermoregulation beyond insulation. By adjusting their feathers' position, dinosaurs could regulate heat loss or retention, similar to how modern birds fluff up to stay warm or streamline to cool down. This dynamic function would help survive temperature fluctuations in day-night cycles or seasonal changes. Feathers also may have influenced dinosaur ecology and behavior indirectly by shaping predator-prey dynamics. Brightly colored feathers could serve as warning signals, while silent feather-covered bodies could enable stealth. In some cases, conspicuous feathers might suggest toxicity or unpalatability, although direct evidence of such interactions remains speculative. As research progresses, paleontologists continue discovering subtle clues about feather functions, utilizing advanced imaging techniques and comparative studies with living birds. This holistic approach underscores feathers as multifunctional tools rather than single-purpose adaptations. Far from being mere body coverings, feathers were sophisticated biological ornaments that enhanced survival, reproduction, and ecological success. In conclusion, feathers were vital evolutionary assets whose roles encompassed thermal regulation, visual communication, sensory enhancement, protection, and locomotion. Their multifunctionality exemplifies nature's innovative reuse of biological traits, demonstrating that feathers originated well before flight and evolved through complex selective pressures that shaped the rich diversity of dinosaur life. Moving forward, we will examine myths and realities about dinosaur flight, separating popular misconceptions from scientific evidence to better understand the evolutionary pathways that led from feathered dinosaurs to the birds airborne today. Flight is one of the most captivating and complex adaptations in the animal kingdom, often regarded as the pinnacle of evolutionary innovation. When it comes to dinosaurs, the question of how, when, and in what manner flight emerged occupies a central position in our understanding of their biology and their profound connection to modern birds. However, many myths and misunderstandings surrounding dinosaur flight persist in popular culture and media. In this section, we will carefully unpack the evolutionary pathways that led to flight, dispelling common misconceptions while illuminating the scientific evidence that traces the intricate development of this remarkable ability. A widespread myth is the idea that all feathered dinosaurs were capable of flight, or that flight evolved suddenly and dramatically within dinosaur lineages. In truth, the origin of flight was an incremental, multifaceted process involving many intermediate stages over millions of years. The evidence suggests that feathers, wings, and flight-related anatomy evolved for diverse purposes long before powered flight emerged. Central to understanding this progression are the small theropod dinosaurs, particularly members of the clade Maniraptora, which include familiar genera such as Velociraptor, Deinonychus, and the famous Archaeopteryx. These dinosaurs possessed feathers and anatomical features that provided the pre-adaptations necessary for flight. However, many were likely non-volant or only capable of gliding. For instance, the four-winged Microraptor is thought to have been an adept glider, using elongated feathers on both its forelimbs and hindlimbs to sail between trees, but not engaging in sustained, powered flight like modern birds. The functional diversity of feather arrangement and wing morphology among these theropods implies that flight evolved through multiple phases, including the stages of tree climbing, gliding, wing-assisted incline running, or flapping behaviors for balance. Biomechanical studies support the idea of wing-assisted incline running, WAIR, where proto-wings helped juvenile or small dinosaurs climb steep surfaces, generating lift without full flight. This stepwise enhancement of wing function laid the groundwork for the evolution of true powered flight. Another misconception is that feathers appeared solely for flight. In fact, as explored previously, feathers initially evolved for insulation and display. Their later co-option for aerodynamic use underscores the evolutionary principle of adaptation. Structures evolving for one function later adapted for another. Flight feathers are structurally complex, with asymmetrical veins crucial for aerodynamic efficiency. These evolved after simpler filamentous and pennaceous feathers already served other roles. Importantly, the earliest known fossil evidence of flight comes not from modern birds, but from transitional fossils like Archaeopteryx, found in late Jurassic deposits dating about 150 million years ago. Archaeopteryx possessed asymmetrical feathers and wing structures capable of lift, but retained many ancestral traits such as teeth and claws on its wings, indicating a primitive stage of flight. Other contemporaneous fossils from China, such as Anchiornis and Geotingia, are reshaping the bird-dinosaur transition narrative and suggest a complex evolutionary experimentation with flight-related adaptations. Flight did not evolve as a single event, but involved multiple evolutionary experiments in form and function, some leading to dead ends, others to lineages that ultimately culminated in modern birds. This complexity is often simplified in popular portrayals, which typically show dinosaurs either wholly flightless or perfectly adapted to flight, overlooking the rich and gradual evolutionary mosaic. It's also important to note that many feathered dinosaurs, including close relatives of birds, were flightless. Flight muscles, skeletal strength, and metabolic requirements imposed significant biological costs. So in some cases, feathers served other functions, or wing structures diminished if flight was lost secondarily. This phenomenon is common among bird relatives throughout history. Modern paleontology integrates fossil evidence, comparative anatomy, developmental biology, and computational modeling to reconstruct these evolutionary pathways with increasing precision. Studies of growth patterns and muscle attachments help distinguish which species were capable of powered flight, gliding, or primarily non-volant behaviors. The emerging consensus views flight as a multi-step process shaped by behavior, environment, and morphology, interacting over tens of millions of years. In summary, flight in dinosaurs represents a gradual evolutionary process marked by numerous intermediate forms and functions, rather than a sudden, isolated innovation. The presence of feathers in itself does not guarantee flight capability, and multiple feathered dinosaur species likely never flew. Flight evolved amidst a backdrop of functional diversity, ecological experimentation, and incremental adaptations that ultimately gave rise to the incredible aerial capabilities of modern birds. Looking ahead, we will explore the deep and enduring dinosaur-bird connection, tracing the origin of modern birds within the theropod group, and how this relationship informs our understanding of dinosaurs as living relatives rather than distant, extinct monsters. This journey reveals that in many ways, birds are living dinosaurs, continuing the ancient legacy of their feathered ancestors. The origin of modern birds stands as one of the most fascinating and scientifically rich stories in the narrative of life on Earth. At its heart lies the deep evolutionary connection between birds and dinosaurs, a connection that reshaped our understanding of both groups and revolutionized the way we think about extinction, adaptation, and continuity in the natural world. This section will trace the journey of this dinosaur-bird connection, shedding light on how modern birds are not just descendants, but living representatives of the dinosaur lineage. For much of the 19th and early 20th centuries, birds were viewed as a distinct group, separate from the mighty reptiles that once dominated the Mesozoic landscapes. Dinosaurs, to many, represented cold-blooded, heavy, and sluggish creatures that vanished without direct descendants. Yet, mounting fossil evidence began to unravel this misconception. The discovery of feathered theropods, small, bipedal, carnivorous dinosaurs possessing bird-like anatomy, laid the groundwork for recognizing birds as a specialized lineage within the theropod dinosaurs. Key transitional fossils, such as Archaeopteryx, have been invaluable in this regard. Archaeopteryx exhibits a blend of avian and reptilian features: flight feathers, wings, and a wishbone. Furcula, shared with modern birds, alongside teeth, claws on its wings, and a long, bony tail characteristic of dinosaurs. This mosaic anatomy vividly illustrates an evolutionary bridge, a snapshot of the transition from terrestrial dinosaurs to the skies. Subsequent discoveries, especially from China's Liaoning province, expanded this understanding. Species like Microraptor, Anchiornis, and Velociraptor display not only feathers, but many skeletal adaptations shared with birds, including a semi-lunate carpal, wrist bone facilitating wing movement, hollow bones, and air sacs connected to the respiratory system. These features indicate that birds are deeply nested within the theropod clade, particularly among the Maniraptora subgroup. Modern birds, in scientific terms, avian dinosaurs, are therefore survivors of the mass extinction event 66 million years ago that wiped out most non-avian dinosaurs. They are not simply descendants, but are, evolutionarily speaking, living dinosaurs. This realization reframes the narrative of extinction and survival from one of total loss to biological continuity, where characteristics such as feathers, flight, and complex behavior evolved gradually and persisted. Genetic and molecular studies bolster this connection. Comparative analyses of bird genomes reveal genes associated with skeletal and feather development that trace back to their dinosaur ancestors. Developmental biology has demonstrated that many bird features, like feathers and the structure of their wings, arise through modifications of genes that existed in non-avian theropods. Behavioral studies also align with this evolutionary link. Brooding and nesting behaviors observed in modern birds have been inferred from fossilized dinosaur nests and even adult dinosaurs found in brooding postures, further highlighting profound biological and ecological continuities. This dinosaur-bird connection challenges the simplistic and outdated dichotomy between dinosaurs and birds in the public imagination. Instead, it emphasizes that birds are a vibrant and diverse group of dinosaurs, feathered, flight-capable, spirited animals that took to the air but carry forward the legacy of their terrestrial ancestors. Recognizing birds as living dinosaurs expands our appreciation of evolutionary processes, survival strategies, and adaptability. It also invites a reconsideration of conservation priorities, as every bird today is a living link to a vast and ancient lineage stretching back over 230 million years. As we proceed, we will delve into the biases inherent in the fossil record that explain why feathered dinosaurs are relatively rare finds, and examine how scientists overcome these challenges to continue unveiling the intricate details of dinosaur biology. This exploration will deepen our understanding of the fossilization process and the hidden stories that fossils carry across time. The fossil record is a window into Earth's ancient past, yet it is far from a complete or unbiased archive. Many factors influence what gets preserved and what is lost to time. When it comes to feathered dinosaurs, this bias becomes especially significant, explaining why fossils with clear feather impressions are comparatively rare despite the evolutionary prevalence of feathers. Understanding fossilization bias illuminates the intricate challenges paleontologists face and unveils the remarkable nature of the feathered dinosaur specimens that have survived. This section will explore the processes that shape fossilization, the reasons feathered dinosaur fossils are scarce, and how scientists work to overcome these hurdles to reconstruct prehistoric life. Fossilization is an exceptional event requiring a precise confluence of conditions. After an animal dies, its remains must be rapidly buried to avoid disintegration by scavengers, microbes, or environmental factors such as weathering and erosion. Soft tissues, including skin, feathers, and organs, are particularly fragile and prone to decay. As such, fossils predominantly consist of hardened bones and teeth, materials more resistant to decomposition and geochemical changes. Feathers, composed chiefly of keratin, a protein prone to rapid decay, seldom fossilize. Their preservation requires rapid burial in environments where oxygen is limited or absent, conditions that slow decomposition by bacteria and other organisms. Fine-grained sediments, such as those found in lakes, lagoons, or volcanic ash deposits, further aid in capturing delicate feather impressions. Such precise circumstances are rare globally, contributing to the sporadic nature of feathered dinosaur fossils. The iconic feathered fossils from China's Liaoning province illustrate these favorable conditions. Rapid burial by volcanic ash in anoxic lagoonal environments led to extraordinary soft tissue preservation. However, these deposits represent a tiny fraction of all dinosaur habitats and geological formations. Many dinosaur species likely lived in environments less conducive to preserving soft tissues, such as dry floodplains or upland areas, where carcasses decomposed without leaving soft tissue traces. Beyond depositional environments, taphonomic processes, how an organism decays and fossilizes, add complexity. Feathers tend to be thin and lightweight, making them susceptible to destruction during post-mortem transport or geological activity. Often, only partial feather evidence survives, requiring delicate preparation and expert interpretation to recognize and differentiate from other structures such as plant material or collagen fibers. Geochemical factors within sediments also influence fossilization. Certain minerals and chemical conditions can foster the preservation of organic compounds or imprint fine details of integument. In contrast, more acidic or biologically active sediments can degrade soft tissue structures entirely. This influence varies widely across regions and geologic times, producing patchy preservation records. Additionally, there is an inherent collector and observer bias. Historically, dinosaur discoveries focused on large, robust bones, leading early paleontologists to overlook or misinterpret subtle signs of feathers. Recognition of feathered dinosaurs became prominent only with modern techniques and renewed attention. Increasingly, advanced imaging technologies, such as scanning electron microscopy and synchrotron radiation, allow detection of microscopic feather structures or chemical traces invisible to the naked eye. The rarity of feathered dinosaur fossils in the record also reflects evolutionary and ecological patterns. Feathers were most common among smaller theropods, which had less robust skeletons, further reducing the likelihood of fossilization. Larger species with feathers may not have preserved soft tissues well, or may have had sparser feather coverings, making finding evidence more difficult. Furthermore, some species may have evolved different integument types suited to their specific habitats, influencing preservation probability. Despite these challenges, each new feathered dinosaur fossil holds extraordinary scientific value, often redefining evolutionary timelines and behavioral interpretations. Increasing efforts in targeted excavations in areas known for exceptional preservation, improved fossil preparation methods, and interdisciplinary studies continually improve our ability to piece together this intricate past. In summary, fossilization bias is a critical factor in why feathered dinosaurs appear rare in the fossil record. The fragile nature of feathers, demanding environmental conditions for preservation, geochemical variability, and historical scientific focus all contribute to an incomplete but enriching tapestry of dinosaur evolution. Nonetheless, the pieces we do possess offer profound insights, reminding us that the fossil record, however imperfect, beautifully chronicles a world where feathers adorned many more dinosaurs than once imagined. With this perspective, we will next address common misconceptions about feathered dinosaurs, including size, habitat, and appearance, to further refine our understanding of their reality versus enduring myths. In the enduring tapestry of dinosaur lore, many misconceptions about the true nature of these creatures have persisted, particularly regarding their size, habitat, and the extent to which they bore feathers. As our scientific knowledge has grown, it's become clear that some traditional views no longer hold, and in this section, we will challenge these persistent myths, separating fiction from evidence-based realities about feathered dinosaurs. One widespread misconception is that only small dinosaurs bore feathers, or that feathers were limited to diminutive species. This idea, rooted in early fossil evidence predominantly from small theropods, has been challenged by more recent discoveries. We now know that feathers, or at least feather-like structures, were not the exclusive property of tiny dinosaurs, but also adorned larger species. For example, Yutyrannus huali, a large tyrannosauroid from the early Cretaceous of China, measured approximately 9 meters, 30 feet in length, and displayed evidence of extensive filamentous feathers. This specimen dramatically altered the assumption that large dinosaurs were necessarily scaly and featherless, indicating that feathers played roles beyond display in smaller animals. The functional implications of feathers on large dinosaurs, such as insulation, raise fascinating questions about their physiology and the environments they inhabited. Larger animals traditionally have lower surface area to volume ratios, meaning they tend to retain heat efficiently and may not require insulation in the same way smaller creatures do. However, the presence of feathers on large species like Yutyrannus suggests that feathers also contributed to other purposes, such as display, camouflage, or species recognition, which might compensate for any thermal inefficiency. Another myth is that feathered dinosaurs strictly inhabited forested or temperate environments. While many feathered dinosaur fossils come from such habitats, partly due to preservational bias, fossil records and ecological reconstructions indicate a far broader ecological range. Feathered dinosaurs likely lived in diverse environments, from tropical lowlands to upland regions. Feathers could provide advantages such as UV protection and thermoregulation in different climates, not merely cold or temperate zones. Furthermore, fossils like those of Culindodromeus, an ornithischian dinosaur with feather-like integument, discovered in what was once a semi-arid environment, support the idea that feathers or filamentous coverings were not simply cold-weather adaptations. Instead, feathers might have served multifunctional roles, including waterproofing, display, or sensory functions. The notion that feathers automatically equate to flying capability is another misconception warranting clarification. Many feathered dinosaurs were non-volant, incapable of flight or even gliding. Their feathers likely evolved initially for insulation or display, and only later became adapted for aerodynamic purposes in bird lineages. Thus, the evolutionary story is complex, and the relationship between feathers and flight is not a simple cause and effect narrative. Finally, the assumption that all dinosaurs had the same type or extent of plumage oversimplifies the diversity of integumentary structures seen across species. Feather morphology varied widely, ranging from simple filaments to complex pennaceous feathers, and some species even retained large patches of scales alongside feathers. For example, Tibetan ornithischians exhibited a mosaic of scales and feather-like filaments, illustrating a rich spectrum of possible integumentary arrangements. Challenging these misconceptions is crucial for reconstructing an accurate picture of dinosaur biology and behavior. It broadens our understanding of how feathers evolved and their diverse roles across species and environments. Feathers were neither exclusive to small dinosaurs nor strictly linked to flight or cold climates. They were versatile evolutionary innovations that shaped the life histories of many dinosaurs in varied and nuanced ways. The careful dismantling of these myths not only enriches scientific discourse, but also invites us to reimagine dinosaurs as dynamic, complex organisms invisibly woven into their ecosystems. As we continue, the next chapter will explore what fossil feathers reveal about dinosaur coloration, patterns, and appearance, introducing a new dimension of vibrancy and individuality to these iconic prehistoric animals. One of the most captivating questions about dinosaurs, beyond their shape and size, is, what did they look like in life? For centuries, dinosaurs were imagined as drab, monotone reptiles, grays, browns, and greens dominating their imagined hues. But recent advances in paleontology and fossil analysis have revolutionized our understanding, revealing that many dinosaurs sported brilliantly colored feathers and intricate patterns. This section unfolds the remarkable story of how fossil feathers reveal their colors and patterns, shedding new light on the appearance and lives of these ancient creatures. The revelation of dinosaur color and pattern owes much to the study of microscopic structures called melanosomes, pigment-containing organelles found within feathers and skin. These tiny, fossilized melanosomes were first discovered in exceptional fossils, primarily from the finely preserved specimens of Liaoning, China, where feathers and other soft tissues retained remarkable detail. By comparing the shapes and arrangements of these fossil melanosomes with those found in modern birds, scientists can infer the colors and, in some cases, the patterns of ancient feathers with surprising accuracy. Different melanosome shapes correspond to different pigments. For example, elongated, sausage-shaped melanosomes are typically associated with eumelanin, which produces black or gray hues, whereas rounder melanosomes correspond to pheomelanin, giving reddish or brownish tones. By mapping combinations and distributions of these pigment types in fossil feathers, researchers reconstruct a palette of colors spanning black, white, gray, reddish-brown, and even iridescent hues. One of the most iconic examples is the small theropod Anchiornis huxley, whose fossilized feathers have revealed a complex pattern of black, white, and reddish patches covering its wings, head, and body. This indicates that its plumage was not only functional, but also likely played a role in display or camouflage. Similarly, Microraptor is known to have had glossy, iridescent black feathers, possibly used for sexual display or signaling. Color patterns inferred from fossils include stripes, spots, mottling, and countershading, darker backs and lighter underbellies that provided camouflage against predators or prey. Countershading is a widespread adaptation among modern animals, suggesting similar evolutionary pressures influenced dinosaur coloration. Besides offering aesthetic detail, coloration had ecological and behavioral implications. Bright and contrasting colors could serve as signals during courtship or territorial displays, while subdued or cryptic patterns enhanced stealth. Some speculate that iridescence might have aided in species recognition or mating rituals, much like in some modern birds. Though our understanding is still developing, these pigment studies have shattered the idea that dinosaurs were dull creatures and instead present them as visually dynamic animals. As technology improves, researchers are even delving into nanostructures within feathers that can produce structural colors, those created not by pigments, but by light interacting with microscopic feather features, indicating a dazzling array of possible appearances. The challenge remains that fossilization biases the preservation of color information. Only exceptionally preserved feathers retain such details, and the original pigment molecules often degrade over time. Despite this, Each new discovery paints an ever more colorful and nuanced picture of dinosaur life. In conclusion, fossil feathers open a rare window into the colors and patterns of dinosaurs, enriching our understanding beyond skeletal anatomy to lifestyle, behavior, and ecology. These revelations continue to transform public and scientific perceptions alike, inviting us to visualize dinosaurs as living, vibrant beings whose appearance was as diverse and complex as that of today's avian descendants. Next, we will explore the art and science of reconstructing dinosaurs, where imagination meets evidence, to create lifelike representations bridging millions of years to give prehistoric creatures a second life in our minds and on our screens. Bringing dinosaurs to life in our imaginations and museums is an art that harmoniously blends rigorous science with creative interpretation. The reconstruction of dinosaurs, transforming fossilized bones, impressions, and clues into vivid, believable creatures, is both a scientific challenge and a testament to human curiosity and ingenuity. This endeavor requires a multidisciplinary approach involving paleontologists, artists, anatomists, and even biomechanics experts, all working together to translate Earth's ancient past into tangible, relatable forms. This section explores the fascinating world of dinosaur reconstruction, where art, science, and imagination converge. At the foundation of any reconstruction lie the fossils themselves. Skeletal remains provide the essential framework, outlining size, shape, and physical structure. Detailed study of bones through comparative anatomy allows scientists to infer muscle attachment points, joint mobility, and possible range of motion, which in turn informs posture and locomotion. For example, the discovery that many theropods held their tails aloft rather than dragging them behind fundamentally changed their portrayal from slow, lumbering reptiles to agile, balanced runners. However, fossils rarely provide a complete picture. Soft tissues like muscles, skin, and feathers seldom fossilize, and clues about color, texture, and behavior are often indirect. Here, comparative anatomy with modern animals, especially birds and reptiles, becomes crucial. Artists rely on these analogies to fill gaps, hypothesizing feather placement, skin texture, and coloration patterns consistent with evolutionary relationships and ecological niches. Scientific advances have dramatically expanded our toolkit. Technologies such as computer modeling and 3D scanning enable precise digital reconstructions that simulate biomechanics and physical stresses, revealing plausible movements and behaviors. These tools help test hypotheses about how dinosaurs might have walked, hunted, or interacted socially. Feathered dinosaurs posed new challenges and opportunities for reconstructive efforts. The discovery of different feather types and their arrangement requires integration of fossil impressions and current knowledge about feather function among birds. Artists must balance evidence with aesthetics, deciding, for instance, how extensive feather coverings were or how color patterns might have appeared. Color reconstruction has made leaps forward with the analysis of fossilized melanosomes, which inform pigmentation and patterning. This adds evolutionary and ecological context. Bright displays might suggest mating rituals, camouflage patterns indicate predator-prey dynamics, and where patterns hint at habitat interactions. Artistic interpretation remains an indispensable part of the process. Reconstruction artists bring scientific evidence to life with careful attention to anatomy while using creativity to visualize behaviors and appearances not directly preserved. Their work appears in museum exhibits, documentaries, films, and literature, shaping public perceptions. Notably, artistic reconstructions influence educational outreach, bridging the gap between data and imagination. Collaboration between scientists and artists enhances accuracy and viability. Open dialogue ensures that reconstructions stay rooted in evidence while embracing creative nuances. Controversies sometimes arise over specific choices, such as the extent of feathers or coloration, but these debates exemplify healthy scientific discourse and development. Importantly, reconstructions are dynamic, evolving as new discoveries emerge and methods improve. The portrayal of dinosaurs in media and scientific circles has shifted dramatically over recent decades, from scaly reptilian monsters to vividly feathered, active animals, reflecting ongoing reinterpretation grounded in fresh data. Beyond accuracy, reconstructions inspire wonder and connection. They invite people to imagine themselves in Mesozoic landscapes, understanding ancient life not merely as fossils in stone, but as living, breathing entities adapted to survival challenges similar in many ways to modern fauna. In conclusion, the art and science of reconstructing dinosaurs is a continuously unfolding endeavor at the crossroads of evidence and imagination. It celebrates our quest to bridge deep time with modern understanding, crafting lifelike representations that honor both the fossil record and the colorful vitality of life. Next, we will consider how the public has reacted to these evolving images of feathered dinosaurs, the enthusiasm, controversies, and the cultural dialogues they have sparked, illustrating the profound impact of paleontological discoveries on society and imagination. Public fascination with dinosaurs has long been entwined with the images popularized by museums, literature, and media, often portraying them as towering, scaly, reptilian giants. The introduction of feathered dinosaurs into mainstream science and culture in recent decades has therefore sparked not only excitement, but also notable controversy and backlash. This section examines the varied public responses to the concept of feathered dinosaurs, exploring the reasons behind skepticism, cultural resistance, scientific debate, and how these conversations have shaped the evolving narrative around dinosaurs and their stunning diversity. When the first irrefutable fossil evidence of feathered non-avian dinosaurs emerged, such as the specimens from Liaoning, China, it challenged the conventional image that many held about dinosaurs as exclusively scaly creatures. For some members of the public, educators, and even parts of the scientific community, accepting dinosaurs as feathered, sometimes even fluffy or brightly colored, clashed sharply with long-established iconic images ingrained from childhood and popular media. This cognitive dissonance triggered a wave of skepticism and a reluctance to revise familiar mental pictures. One factor contributing to the backlash is the emotional attachment many people develop toward their dinosaur icons. Dinosaurs often symbolize prehistoric power and mystery, and the notion of them covered in feathers, reminiscent of modern birds, seemingly softens and even humanizes them, diminishing their fearsome aura. This perception resonates within a cultural framework where reptiles are traditionally viewed as cold and menacing, whereas birds are often seen as delicate and friendly. Consequently, feathered reconstructions can feel incongruous or less dramatic, leading to resistance in embracing these new portrayals. Controversies have also unfolded within the scientific community, particularly early on. Some paleontologists were hesitant to accept feathers on dinosaurs because the fossil evidence was new and relatively limited, and because feathers had traditionally been associated solely with birds. Debates centered on interpreting fossilized filaments as feathers versus other structures, like collagen fibers or skin impressions. Over time, as more unequivocal discoveries accumulated, the scientific consensus coalesced, but occasional dissent and vigorous discussion about the extent and interpretation of feathers persist. Media representations have at times exacerbated misunderstandings. Documentaries, films, and books vary in their scientific accuracy, sometimes exaggerating the fluffiness or downplaying feathers to conform with audience expectations. Conversely, sudden shifts to fully feathered depictions in popular outlets have surprised or alienated some fans accustomed to classic scaly dinosaurs. This disconnect between evolving science and cultural perception fuels ongoing debates. The commercial and entertainment industries have also grappled with how to handle feathered dinosaurs. Toys, theme park attractions, and blockbuster films often balance scientific innovation with marketability. For decades, non-feathered dinosaurs dominated merchandise due to their familiar appeal and dramatic visuals. As feathered dinosaurs gained acceptance, producers faced challenges in redesigning characters without alienating loyal audiences, sometimes leading to hybrid or selectively feathered portrayals. Despite resistance, educational attitudes have been shifting gradually. Museums are increasingly showcasing feathered dinosaur exhibits, and textbooks have updated imagery to reflect current knowledge. This educational embrace plays a crucial role in acclimating the public to more accurate depictions and fostering appreciation for the dynamic nature of science. Public dialogue around feathered dinosaurs is emblematic of broader themes in science communication: how new knowledge challenges entrenched ideas, the emotional and cultural factors influencing acceptance, and the evolving interface between scientific discovery and popular culture. These discussions underscore the importance of clear, engaging communication and collaboration between scientists, educators, and the media. In conclusion, controversies over feathered dinosaurs highlight the complex interplay between science, culture, and imagination. Rather than mere obstacles, these debates enrich our collective engagement with prehistoric life, reflecting a living conversation that continues to evolve as new discoveries reshape our vision of the past. Next, we will explore the modern paleontological renaissance that embraces these new discoveries about feathers, revolutionizing perceptions and inspiring a renewed, scientifically grounded enthusiasm for dinosaurs among specialists and the public alike. The past few decades have witnessed a profound transformation in the field of paleontology, a renaissance that has revolutionized our understanding of dinosaurs and forever altered public perceptions. This modern dinosaur renaissance has been characterized by groundbreaking fossil discoveries, advances in technology, and a collaborative spirit that bridges science, art, and education. In this section, we explore how contemporary paleontology has redefined dinosaurs not as sluggish, scaly beasts of the past, but as dynamic, diverse creatures, many of them feathered and exhibiting bird-like qualities, dramatically reshaping our cultural and scientific narratives. The seeds of this renaissance were planted in the late 20th century, when new fossil sites began to yield specimens with astonishing levels of preservation. The Liaoning fossils from China are perhaps the most celebrated examples, revealing a diversity of feathered dinosaurs and providing direct evidence linking birds and dinosaurs. These findings challenged long-held dogmas, inspiring a re-evaluation of dinosaur biology, behavior, and evolution. Concurrently, advances in technology empowered paleontologists to analyze fossils in unprecedented detail. High-resolution imaging techniques, such as synchrotron radiation and scanning electron microscopy, unveiled microscopic structures like melanosomes within feathers, enabling researchers to infer coloration patterns. Computed tomography, CT scanning, allowed non-destructive, three-dimensional examination of fossilized skeletons and, in some cases, soft tissues. Such tools transformed fossils from static bones into living records of anatomy and ecology. Modern paleontologists also embraced interdisciplinary approaches, incorporating biomechanics, developmental biology, and genetics. Computational modeling and biomechanical simulations reconstructed dinosaur movement and behavior, while insights from developmental genetics illuminated how feathers and other traits evolved. These integrative methodologies brought depth and nuance to our understanding, bridging gaps between fossils and living organisms. Public engagement became a cornerstone of this renaissance. Museums reimagined dinosaur exhibits with scientifically updated reconstructions, showcasing feathers and vibrant colors. Popular media, from documentaries to blockbuster films, began to portray feathered dinosaurs, balancing accuracy with storytelling to reach broad audiences. Educational curricula progressively integrated current paleontological knowledge, fostering scientifically literate generations. Despite occasional debates and cultural resistance, the dinosaur renaissance has fostered an environment of open inquiry and excitement. It encourages constant reassessment as new fossils emerge and theories evolve, highlighting science as a dynamic process. The embracing of feathered dinosaurs not only reshaped academic circles, but enriched the public imagination, transforming dinosaurs from monolithic monsters into complex living organisms shaped by millions of years of evolution. In essence, modern paleontology's renaissance embodies a thrilling journey of discovery and reinterpretation. By unveiling dinosaurs as active, diverse, and often feathered creatures closely related to birds, it dispels myths and invites wonder. This renewed perspective continues to inspire scientists, artists, educators, and enthusiasts worldwide, forging a deeper connection to our planet's distant past. Looking ahead, we will examine the fascinating reality that dinosaurs are not extinct in a traditional sense. Birds are their living descendants. This intimate evolutionary link defines birds as the last surviving theropods, a perspective that enriches our understanding of life's continuity through deep time. When we think of dinosaurs, the instinctual image is often of colossal, extinct reptiles that vanished millions of years ago. Yet, in a remarkable twist of evolutionary destiny, dinosaurs have not entirely disappeared. Their lineage persists today in the form of birds, making these feathered creatures our closest living link to the Mesozoic era. This section explores the profound truth that modern birds are, in fact, living dinosaurs, the last surviving members of the theropod group, and examines the implications of this connection for science and our understanding of life on Earth. Birds belong to a branch of the dinosaur family tree known as theropods, a group characterized primarily by hollow bones, three-toed limbs, and, notably, an evolutionary relationship to the iconic carnivorous dinosaurs like Velociraptor and Tyrannosaurus rex. Over the course of millions of years, small theropods gradually acquired features suited for flight, culminating in the rise of true birds. This evolutionary continuity is supported by both fossil and genetic evidence, and reveals that the familiar feathered animals around us today represent a living lineage that survived the cataclysmic events that wiped out their non-avian relatives about 66 million years ago. Anatomically, birds share numerous features with their theropod ancestors. These include the presence of feathers, which originated in theropods long before the emergence of flight, a furcula, or wishbone, which aids in flight mechanics, pneumatic, air-filled bones that lighten the skeleton, and certain aspects of their respiratory system, which allows for highly efficient oxygen exchange. Furthermore, the structure of bird eggs, nesting behaviors, and brooding practices echo those observed or inferred in their dinosaurian forebears. Molecular biology further substantiates this connection. Analysis of protein sequences extracted from exceptionally preserved dinosaur fossils shows similarities with those of modern birds. Meanwhile, developmental biology studies have uncovered gene expressions and growth patterns in bird embryos reminiscent of traits seen in dinosaur ancestors, further bridging the morphological divide. Conceptualizing birds as living dinosaurs transforms our biological perspective. Rather than perceiving dinosaurs as entirely alien and extinct, we recognize that a lineage of highly adapted, feathered, warm-blooded creatures flourished and diversified into the rich variety of modern birds. This redefinition fosters a deeper appreciation for evolutionary processes, illustrating how species can adapt, survive, and transform over vast stretches of geological time. Additionally, the behavioral repertoire of birds offers insights into the life of their dinosaurian predecessors. Complex vocalizations, nesting strategies, parental care, social behaviors, and even problem-solving abilities in some bird species hint at the sophistication that may have existed in avian dinosaurs. It's noteworthy that the survival of birds through the mass extinction that ended the reign of non-avian dinosaurs underscores their adaptability and evolutionary success. Their ability to exploit diverse ecological niches, coupled with versatile feeding and reproductive strategies, contributed to their persistence and global spread. For science, accepting birds as living dinosaurs bridges paleontology with ornithology and ecology, fostering integrated approaches to study form, function, and evolution. It challenges the rigid boundary between extinct and extant life, emphasizing continuity and change. In conclusion, birds stand as vibrant, living dinosaurs, testaments to evolution's power and resilience. Their feathers, songs, and soaring flights carry the legacy of a world long vanished, connecting us intimately to Earth's distant past. Continuing from here, we will delve into the emerging field of paleogenomics to explore what ancient DNA and molecular data can reveal and what they cannot about dinosaur feathers and their evolutionary secrets, highlighting both the promises and limitations of peering into deep time through genetic clues. The study of ancient DNA, or paleogenomics, has captured the imagination of scientists and the public alike, promising the tantalizing possibility of peering directly into the genetic code of extinct organisms. When it comes to dinosaurs and their feathers, paleogenomics holds both exciting potential and inherent limitations. In this section, we explore what ancient DNA can and cannot reveal about the evolutionary origins, development, and diversity of dinosaur feathers, highlighting the current state of research and the challenges that define this cutting-edge field. DNA is an inherently fragile molecule, prone to decay over time. While some DNA has been successfully recovered from specimens tens of thousands of years old, the idea of retrieving authentic dinosaur DNA from fossils dating back tens of millions of years remains extraordinarily unlikely due to DNA's chemical instability and the vast geological time spans involved. The degradation processes, environmental exposure, and geological events over millions of years vastly diminish the chances of viable dinosaur DNA survival. Despite these odds, scientists have made remarkable progress in extracting genetic information from more recent extinct species, such as Neanderthals and the woolly mammoth. These advances offer methodological frameworks for understanding how ancient genetic material might be preserved and analyzed. Techniques such as polymerase chain reaction, PCR, next-generation sequencing, and mass spectrometry provide powerful tools to detect and amplify genetic fragments, though their applicability to dinosaur-aged fossils is limited. The search for paleogenomic information about dinosaur feathers often focuses on indirect evidence rather than complete DNA sequences. For example, researchers have successfully identified protein fragments, such as collagen, and other biomolecules within dinosaur bones and feathers. These protein residues can provide valuable insights into the molecular composition and evolutionary relationships of dinosaurs. Proteomics, the study of proteins, supplements genetic data and helps bridge gaps in understanding biological functions and development. Further, comparative genomics using modern birds and reptiles serves as a proxy to infer the genetic underpinnings of feather development and variation. Bird genomes reveal genes responsible for feather morphogenesis and pigmentation, suggesting that many of these genetic mechanisms were present in dinosaur ancestors. By tracing these evolutionary conserved pathways, scientists can hypothesize about the genetic basis of feather diversity in extinct dinosaurs. Still, paleogenomics faces challenges of contamination and interpretation. Ancient samples risk contamination from modern organisms, complicating data authenticity. Additionally, fragmentary genetic data require careful contextualization with fossil morphological evidence and developmental biology to avoid overly speculative conclusions. Exciting, though controversial, claims, such as the recovery of sequences akin to hemoglobin or melanosome-associated proteins from dinosaur fossils, have sparked vigorous debate within the scientific community. While these discoveries push the boundaries of what's possible, consensus remains cautious, awaiting reproducibility and corroboration through independent studies. Looking ahead, advancements in sequencing technologies, bioinformatics, and molecular paleontology may gradually expand our capacity to explore ancient biomolecules. However, it is essential to recognize the fundamental time constraints that limit the recovery of intact dinosaur DNA. Future research will likely focus on indirect molecular signatures and integrating paleogenomic data with fossil evidence, developmental biology, and phylogenetics. In summary, paleogenomics opens a window, albeit a narrow and sometimes foggy one, into the biology of dinosaurs and their feathers. While it cannot yet provide complete genomes or detailed genetic blueprints, it enriches our understanding of molecular evolution and the deep ancestry shared by birds and their dinosaurian forebears. Building upon this molecular perspective, the next section will explore how media and educational shifts are transforming the storytelling of feathered dinosaurs, bridging science and society through new narratives and imagery. In the past few decades, a profound shift has been underway in how dinosaurs are portrayed in media and education, transforming the narrative from the familiar scaly, monstrous reptiles into vibrant, often feathered animals with complex behaviors. This evolution in storytelling reflects the integration of cutting-edge scientific research about dinosaur feathers into public consciousness, reshaping our cultural understanding and enriching the way we connect with prehistoric life. In this section, we will explore how media and educational frameworks have responded to and embraced the feathered dinosaur revolution, examining both the opportunities and challenges this transformation presents. Historically, popular media, from classic dinosaur films and television shows to children's books and museum exhibits, depicted dinosaurs primarily as large, scaly beasts, often emphasizing their size and ferocity. These portrayals, deeply rooted in early paleontological reconstructions and reinforced by Hollywood, have had lasting influence on public imagination. Feathered dinosaurs, until recently, were exceptions rather than the norm in popular depictions. The rise of feathered dinosaur discoveries, particularly from fossil sites like Liaoning, China, challenged this paradigm dramatically. Scientific publications and museum exhibits began updating models and displays to include feathers, leading to a gradual but significant change in how dinosaurs were presented. This shift demanded fresh collaboration between paleontologists, artists, educators, and media producers to translate complex scientific data into accessible and engaging stories. In educational contexts, curricula evolved to incorporate current understandings, introducing students to feathered dinosaurs and the evolutionary link between dinosaurs and birds. Textbooks and classroom resources started highlighting feathers not as anomalies, but as widespread traits, challenging outdated notions and expanding students' appreciation of dinosaur diversity. This scientific update has fostered critical thinking about the nature of scientific inquiry and the evolving nature of knowledge. Media portrayals began reflecting this science-driven shift with varying degrees of success. Documentaries like BBC's Planet Dinosaur and Walking with Dinosaurs integrated feathered dinosaurs thoughtfully, exposing wide audiences to these revelations. Animated series and movies increasingly depict feathered species, though some blockbuster films balance scientific accuracy with audience expectations by adapting feather representations. These changes in storytelling raise important dynamics about reconciling tradition with innovation. Some audiences express resistance or surprise at feathered dinosaurs, reflecting deep-seated cultural attachments to older images. Educators and communicators thus face challenges in addressing misconceptions respectfully while presenting updated science compellingly. Despite hurdles, the inclusion of feathers enriches dinosaur narratives, allowing exploration of behaviors like display, thermoregulation, and social interaction, thereby humanizing these ancient animals and making them more relatable. It also strengthens the connection between extinct dinosaurs and living birds, bridging deep time with the present and reinforcing evolutionary themes. Digital platforms and social media have amplified these shifts, creating communities of interest where fans, scientists, and educators share knowledge, artwork, and discussions, further democratizing dinosaur storytelling. Interactive apps, virtual reality experiences, and museum-augmented reality installations incorporate feathered dinosaurs, making prehistoric life vividly tangible and engaging. In conclusion, media and educational shifts towards portraying feathered dinosaurs represent a critical step in aligning public understanding with scientific reality. This transformation not only updates facts, but revitalizes dinosaur stories, imbuing them with color, complexity, and connection, bridging science and imagination for audiences worldwide. Looking ahead, the next topic will tackle common myths and misbeliefs about dinosaur feathers, aiming to clarify widespread misunderstandings and promote a clearer, more nuanced grasp of these remarkable creatures. Throughout the journey of understanding dinosaurs and their feathers, a number of popular myths and misbeliefs have taken hold in the public imagination, sometimes fueled by outdated science, media portrayals, or simple misunderstandings. As our scientific knowledge advances, it becomes essential to separate fact from fiction, setting the record straight on what feathers truly mean for dinosaurs. This section will address some of the most common myths about dinosaur feathers, debunking these misconceptions with clear scientific explanations. One persistent myth is that feathers appeared only in birds, and therefore non-avian dinosaurs were entirely scaly and devoid of any feather-like covering. This notion has been decisively refuted by extensive fossil evidence, demonstrating that many non-avian theropods, not just the earliest birds, had feathers or filamentous integuments. The discovery of numerous feathered dinosaurs across various clades confirms that feathers evolved well before the origin of flight in birds. Relatedly, some believe that all dinosaurs had feathers. While feathers were widespread, especially among theropods, it is inaccurate to suggest that every dinosaur sported them. Many species, particularly large sauropods and some ornithischians, likely had scaly skin or other types of integument rather than feathers. Feather coverage varied according to species, size, and ecological factors, and the fossil record suggests a diversity of skin coverings. Another misconception is that dinosaur feathers were identical to those of modern birds. In reality, Feathers evolved through a spectrum of forms, from simple hair-like filaments through downy and pennaceous feathers to highly specialized flight feathers. Early feather types did not always function in flight, but served roles such as insulation or display. Modern bird feathers represent an advanced stage in a long evolutionary sequence. Some people mistakenly think that all feathered dinosaurs were capable of flight or gliding. In fact, many feathered dinosaurs were flightless, with feathers serving purposes unrelated to aerial locomotion. The evolution of flight was a gradual process involving multiple intermediate stages and adaptations, and not all feathered species participated in it. The idea that feathers made dinosaurs warm-blooded or that all feathered dinosaurs had high metabolisms is also an oversimplification. While feathers likely contributed to thermoregulation and support for elevated metabolic rates in many species, metabolic strategies among dinosaurs were varied and complex. Feathers alone do not define metabolic physiology. There is also a misconception that feathers were purely functional with no role in display or social interactions. Scientific discoveries have shown feathers were often brightly colored, patterned, or used in elaborate displays for mating, intimidation, or social signaling. Feathers played significant roles in behavioral ecology. Some misunderstandings arise from popular media portrayals, where feathered dinosaurs are sometimes depicted as cute or fluffy, leading to the belief that all dinosaurs were bird-like and gentle. Such portrayals, while imaginative and engaging, simplify the diverse array of dinosaur species, many of which were formidable predators or heavily armored herbivores. In conclusion, debunking these myths is vital for appreciating the rich complexity and diversity of feathered dinosaurs. Feathers were a multifaceted feature that evolved over millions of years with varied forms and functions. Recognizing the nuances of these adaptations helps create a more accurate, fascinating picture of dinosaur life. Next, we will look ahead to the future of paleontology, examining how emerging technologies and methodologies promise to reveal even deeper insights into dinosaurs and their feathers, continuing the tradition of discovery and wonder. As we step into the horizon of scientific discovery, the future of paleontology promises to be as dynamic and transformative as the field's storied past. Emerging technologies and innovative methodologies are opening new windows into the deep time history of dinosaurs and their feathers, enabling researchers to explore elements of prehistoric life previously considered inaccessible or lost to time. This section sheds light on the exciting developments on the frontier of paleontological research and what they might reveal about dinosaurs, from their biology and appearance to behavior and evolutionary legacy. One of the most revolutionary tools enhancing paleontology is advanced imaging technology. Techniques such as high-resolution computed tomography, CT, scanning, allow scientists to visualize fossil structures in 3 dimensions without damaging priceless specimens. This enables detailed analysis of internal bone architecture, brain cases, and soft tissue imprints, providing insights into sensory capacities, growth patterns, and physiology. Synchrotron radiation, an even more powerful form of imaging, offers the potential to detect chemical signatures and ultrastructural details, including pigment residues in feathers, further elucidating coloration and texture. Genomic and molecular paleontology is also progressing. While obtaining DNA from deep-time dinosaur fossils remains unlikely, the extraction and analysis of ancient proteins, pigments, and organic molecules are becoming more refined. Techniques such as mass spectrometry and molecular spectroscopy help identify biomolecules that survive fossilization, offering clues to metabolic pathways, immune responses, and even feather composition. These findings enrich our understanding of evolutionary relationships and biological functions. Artificial intelligence and machine learning are emerging as invaluable allies in paleontological research. By processing vast datasets of fossil measurements, biomechanical models, and phylogenetic information, AI systems can identify patterns and predict evolutionary trends that might elude human researchers. These technologies can accelerate species identification, reconstruct missing fossil parts, and simulate behaviors, deepening our grasp of dinosaur diversity and life history. Experimental paleontology is also gaining ground. Researchers are increasingly modeling extinct organisms' locomotion, vocalization, and ecological interactions through robotics and computer simulations. Reconstructing feather aerodynamics, for example, helps clarify how flight and display mechanisms evolved. These experiments bridge gaps between fossil data and dynamic life processes. Collaborative global databases powered by digital technology are transforming access to paleontological collections and data. Virtual repositories make high-quality images, 3D models, and scientific papers widely accessible, fostering interdisciplinary research and community engagement. This democratization of data accelerates discovery and education worldwide. Moreover, emerging field technologies such as drone surveys and ground-penetrating radar improve fossil site detection and excavation precision, reducing damage and expanding opportunities to uncover rare specimens, including those with soft tissue or feather preservation. Scientists are also exploring novel chemical techniques to detect biomarkers indicating ancient biological processes in sediments and fossils, potentially revealing dinosaur diets, microbial associations, and environmental conditions with unprecedented detail. While these technologies hold great promise, they also require careful integration with traditional paleontological expertise and cautious interpretation. Challenges like contamination, data complexity, and ethical considerations accompany technological advances. However, the intriguing potential to rewrite or expand dinosaur knowledge underscores continued investment and innovation. In summary, the future of paleontology is bright and unfolding rapidly. By marrying new technologies with time-honored scientific inquiry, paleontologists are poised to reveal fresh insights into dinosaurs' anatomy, biology, behavior, and evolution, transforming our understanding of these ancient creatures and their feathers in ways once unimaginable. Our final section will reflect on what dinosaurs teach us universally about evolution, adaptation, and life's enduring capacity to change and thrive across Earth's vast history. Dinosaurs, with their vast temporal range and remarkable diversity, offer profound insights that transcend paleontology, illuminating fundamental principles of evolution, adaptation, and the dynamic nature of life on Earth. Their story is a compelling chapter in the grand narrative of the ever-changing tree of life, a metaphor illustrating how species evolve, branch, and sometimes fade, yet also how life persists in an intricate, interconnected web. This concluding section explores the lessons dinosaurs teach us about biological transformation, ecological adaptation, and the continuity of evolutionary processes that shape all living organisms. First and foremost, dinosaurs exemplify the power and creativity of evolution. From small, feathered carnivores inhabiting forested ecosystems to massive sauropods roaming vast floodplains, dinosaurs adapted to an extraordinary range of niches over millions of years. This diversity underscores evolution's role in generating complexity and specialization, where genetic variations combined with environmental pressures drive species to innovate, compete, and thrive. The evolution of feathers, from simple filaments to complex structures enabling flight, illustrates a journey of modification and repurposing, highlighting nature's resourcefulness. Dinosaurs also reveal the importance of adaptation in the face of changing environments. Throughout their existence, they encountered dramatic geological events, climatic shifts, and biological challenges. Their survival strategies, from physiological adaptations like insulation and thermoregulation using feathers, to behavioral traits such as social nesting and display, demonstrate how life negotiates change. Although the non-avian dinosaurs ultimately succumbed to mass extinction, their evolutionary legacy endures in birds and countless ecological principles. Moreover, dinosaurs teach us about extinction and resilience. Mass extinction events remind us that life is vulnerable to sudden perturbations, yet the persistence of lineages like birds shows how life rebounds and diversifies anew. This delicate balance between vulnerability and resilience is a central theme in biology and conservation. The evolutionary continuity embodied by modern birds as living dinosaurs challenges rigid classifications and expands our perspective on biodiversity. It highlights that extinction is not always complete obliteration, but can be followed by transformation and adaptation. This realization invites humility and awe in contemplating life's persistence over geological time. Finally, dinosaurs inspire us to think about the fluidity of evolutionary trees themselves. Phylogenetic relationships are hypotheses that evolve with new data, reflecting the dynamic quality of scientific knowledge. Dinosaurs' shifting portrayal, from scaly giants to feathered, active animals, exemplifies how scientific understanding progresses, reminding us that evolution is an ongoing, unfolding process. In understanding dinosaurs, we grasp broader truths about nature. Diversity arising from variation, survival through adaptation, extinction paving the way for new life, and the enduring interconnectedness of all organisms. Their legacy enriches not only science, but our wonder at the living world and its deep past. As we conclude this exploration, the tale of dinosaurs and their feathers serves as a vibrant testament to evolution's grandeur, a timeless story of change, adaptation, and life's remarkable journey through time.